Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Nick Delahanty podcast, an all sports talk podcast featuring your host, myself, Nick Delahanty. Our podcast will be featured on our YouTube page for the time being, so make sure you subscribe to see all of our latest podcasts and updates regarding the show. First topic that I want to get into is the NBA playoffs. And as an NBA fan, I must say, the whole entire playoffs have been boring. And there was one series that I was excited to watch, excited for the possibility of it happening, and that was if the Warriors met up with the Spurs. And yes, I got that series. But once Kawhi Leonard went down, called the play on Zaza Pachulia dirty or not, the series took another turn. The Spurs had a chance to compete with the Warriors. Given what people say, yes, the Warriors are a super team. They have some great talent on their side, but the Spurs have the winning tradition and the winning coach in Greg Popovich that find ways to win. When they're healthy and at full strength, you cannot count them out. And people were counting them out. And I think game one was a little bit of a shock how they went up so much, but then Kawhi went down and it was a different ball game. Now it's very boring to watch because the Warriors have just dominated ever since that point, and if Kawhi's out for an extended period of time, you could kiss the Spurs series goodbye. The Warriors will cruise to the finals. And if you look at the East, they should just rename the conference the LeBron James Conference because the guy has just dominated. 6 years in a row in the finals. It looks like it's going to be 7 unless the Celtics find a way to step up in this series. But at 32 years old, LeBron is still dominating and playing the game at a high level. And people talk about him slowing down and whatnot because he's getting older. But this guy is still playing at a very, very, very high level. The Celtics have not one player on that roster that could shut him down. You see them trying to mix and match. Guys are taking their turns at him. The guy just keeps battling, and the guy keeps dominating. And until he slows down, I don't think anybody in the East has a chance to compete. So for me, I'm waiting for the NBA Finals. The Warriors and the Cavaliers again. This should be a fun series to watch when it does eventually happen. You're going to have the firepower of the Warriors and the firepower of the Cavaliers. LeBron, one of the greatest to ever do it. Can he dethrone the Warriors again, now with Kevin Durant in the mix? The Warriors are a much better team in terms of shooting the ball and pacing the floor, but now LeBron's got a bigger challenge. This is going to be something that LeBron lives for. This is a legacy type of series for him. If he could dethrone the Warriors and beat the Warriors, the one team that everybody thought was going to win the finals without a challenge, that helps his resume in terms of being the greatest player of all time. You know LeBron will be ready to play this series. It will be fun to watch on both sides. This could go 6, even 7 games. But until then, the NBA fans kind of get the short end of the stick because the series have been boring. Yes, the Celtics-Wizards series was fun to watch. But even there, the Wizards didn't show up in Game 7. Some of the best words in sports are Game 7. And when you have a Game 7, you're expecting the best from both sides. But when your number one guy in John Wall doesn't show up for a Game 7, it takes the fun out of the game and the intensity out of the game. Now, the way that the NBA can make up for this boring playoffs is if this Warriors and Cavaliers series goes deep. That would be fun for not only the fans, but it would rejuvenate the sport a little bit. I feel like everybody who's talking about the sport is giving a negative attitude because of the fact that you have these super teams and it's not like it used to be. Before my generation, you think Jordan would have called Larry Bird and said, "Hey, Larry, let's team up." Or Magic Johnson. Or even Isaiah Thomas. Those guys wanted to beat each other. It was a lot more fun when the NBA was spread out and you had a lot more teams into the mix. Now you have the same 2 teams and the same couple of players that dominate the league. The NBA really needs to reshape this league, and hopefully these teams get away from these super team models and make it more of a competitive balance for everybody. Make it more fun and entertaining and interesting for the fan base, because if it keeps at this pace, I think the NBA is going to lose a lot of interest to other sports, especially with other sports having so many young stars and interesting things going on. It'll be a lot interesting to see when this goes moving forward. But don't think the Cavaliers can't knock off the Warriors in the finals if this matchup is the one that actually does happen. And that will wrap up our first episode of the Nick Delahanty podcast. Once again, I'm Nick Delahanty. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick_Delahanty. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page to hear all of our latest podcasts. Until next time, see you then.